Hello students, welcome to Smart Solution. I am Nikhil and we have started with geography chapter 2, that is land, soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife resources. Okay, so today let us start with the second lecture of this session. So, in the previous lecture, we have seen what are the different resources, and we have started with the land resources. We have understood what are the uses of land, and we have also seen some basic points related to conservation of land resources. Okay, so today in this lecture, we will be starting with soil. So, let us start. The thin layer of grainy substance covering the surface of earth is called soil. So what is a soil? Soil is a substance, that is grainy substance, that is covering the earth, right? So the grainy substance that covers the land or the surface of the earth, that is called as soil. So it is closely linked to land. Landforms determine the type of soil. Soil is made up of organic matter, minerals, and weathered rock found on the earth. So basically, if you move around the different geographies or different regions, you will see that the soil is of different types because it is based or it is linked to the land. Okay, so as the landform changes, the type of soil also changes. So basically, what is soil? Soil is made up of organic matters, minerals, and weathered rock. Yeah. So if you see the soil, if you see any of the soil in any of the field or agricultural field, you will see that it is a mixture of organic matter. You can see some microorganisms, some insects in the soil, or even some vegetative matter in the soil. So that basically compose of organic matter. There are some minerals. Minerals basically they come from the earth surface, or even we even provide them in the form of chemicals or fertilizers. So basically minerals like phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium, these are required for the growth of plant. And weathered rock, so weathered rock means the sub layer of the soil that basically breaks down into small particles and forms some small grainy substances. So that is weathered rock, right? So all these three compounds, that is organic matter, minerals and weathered rock, they together form what is known as soil. So this happens through the process of weathering. The right mix of minerals and organic matter makes the soil fertile. So if you see any of the soil, there should be a proper amount of minerals and organic matter into the soil so that it could be fertile. Say for example, if there is only organic matter and there is no minerals, so do you think that plant can grow very properly? No. Similarly, if there is only minerals and there is no organic matter in the soil, same thing, plants cannot grow. Okay, so see, if you take any of the minerals, say you take potassium, so if you just have potassium only and there are no organic matter, so can you think of how the plant will grow in that potassium? Obviously it will not grow. So the theme line is that in order the soil to be fertile, there should be a proper mix of minerals and organic matter, right? So these are the basically soil profiles. In this diagram you can see the top soil with humus and vegetation, this is known as the organic matter, right? So humus and organic matter. Subsoil with sand, silt and clay. So basically this is the second layer. If we start from here towards down, top to down, so this is the first layer. This is the vegetation. Below this is the humus and vegetation. Below that it is this soil with some small particles of sand and soil or sleet and even clay. How these are formed? These are formed from this weathered rock material. So what happens, this rock will wither out, that will break down into small particles, will get converted into this, and in these substances whenever some organic matter is mixed, so it will form the humus and vegetative layer over here. Okay, so first layer is humus and vegetative, second is soil with sand, silt and clay, third is weathered rock, and fourth is the parent rock. Parent rock is below the weathered rock, and this profile of soil, this will basically weathered rock type can change, this type can change, and even there could be some changes into the composition, but this profile will always be there in any part of the world. Okay, so now moving to previous page. So we in the previous lecture have seen that continuous or extensive use of land can cause various effects like afforestation, land reclamation, uh, reg- sorry, these were not the effect, these are rather the precautions, like what should be done to prevent land resources from depleting. Okay, but as you can see over here, what we are doing is we have to see what are the effects of extensive use of land. So first thing is landslide. So you can see in this picture that there is a hill or mountain region, and a city or too much of residential people have built different complexes just on the foot of this hill, right? So what will happen during very high rainy season, it may happen that some part of the hill may break down or slide away due to the heavy rain. It will carry some, the rainwater which was moving downwards can now carry this broken part of the hill downwards with the slope, and this part will now create destruction of this buildings in the nearby vicinity. Okay, so this is known as landslide. In landslide, what happens is some part of the hilly region that will break down and it will flow downwards, right? So that is known as basically landslide. So landslide are simply defined as the mass movement of rock, debris or earth down a slope. Movement of this material down the slope, they often take place in conjunction with earthquake. So whenever there are earthquakes or floods and volcanoes, so all these events like earthquakes, floods and volcanoes, they create this landslide. A prolonged spell of rainfall can cause heavy landslides that can block the flow of river for quite some time. Even in addition to this earthquake, flood and volcanoes, heavy rainfall also will cause landslide. And what will happen due to this landslide, it may happen that roads may be blocked, the flow of rivers may be blocked, anything can happen. The formation of river blocks can cause havoc to the settlements downstream on its bursting. So say for example, if instead of this residential zone or the building, if suppose there would have been any of the river, so in case if there is landslide and these all the matter, that is land, soil, rocks, they are carried downwards and they are settled over here. So say for example, if our river is now flowing in this direction, because of this settlement over here, there will be barrier created and the river water will not be able to flow in this direction anymore. So what will happen, this layer will basically act as a dam. It will prevent the water flow and there will be settlement or increasing of water in this part of the zone now. So as the water will increase, it will create pressure on this part of the soil. So once the pressure is high enough, so this part of the soil will now be broken down and there will be extensive flow of this water on the downside. So again, what will happen, due to water cached or water contained in this area will be submerged. But after the landslide or the dis- or the barrier is broken down, it will cause flooding in the downstream. So again, here will there will be a destruction. So landslide will create destruction in both the directions, up downstream as well as upstream of the river. Okay, in the hilly terrain, landslides have been a major and widely spectrum natural disaster that often strike life and property and occupy a position of major concern. So basically the hilly areas, they are more prone to landslides. So if you see the Indian geography, the major hilly regions are towards the northwest side, you can say, or northeast side, where Jammu Kashmir, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, some part of Uttar Pradesh, maybe Assam, and all those states where there are major hilly regions, they are mostly prone to landslides. So a case study is given to us. A massive landslide hit Pangi village near Rekong Pio in Kinnor district of Himachal Pradesh and damaged a 200-meter stretch of old Hindustan Tibet road. So there was some landslide in Pangi village, and what it has done, it has damaged almost 200-meter stretch. So if you see 200-meter length, it is a huge length, and because of this landslide, 200-meter length of the Hindustan Tibet road was destructed. So this road is basically known by its number, national highway number 22. This landslide was triggered by intense blasting at Pangi village. And what was the cause of this landslide? There were some blasting done in the Pangi village, and because of the vibrations of this blasting, this landslide took place. Due to the blasting, this weak zone of the slope collapsed and caused intensive damage to the road and nearby villages. The Pangi village was completely vacated to avoid any possible loss of life. So due to this landslide, the roads were buried under the land, the villages were disturbed, and the Pangi village, where actually some blasting was done, the area was completely vacated. That is, people were moved from that village to some nearby village to avoid any loss of life. Okay, so these are the cases, like what are the effects of landslide. Now, the mitigation mechanism. So, we have seen what is landslide, how it occurs, and what are the effects of this landslide. So is it possible to prevent the landslide from happening, do you think? So let us see if it is possible and how it can be done. So advancements in scientific techniques has empowered us to understand what factors cause landslides and how to manage them. Some broad mitigation techniques of landslide are as follows. So due to the scientific techniques, new technologies are being developed, because of which it is now possible to prevent this landslide, not to the full extent, but yeah, surely to some extent. So hazard mapping to locate areas prone to landslides, hence such areas can be avoided for building settlements. So primary cause we are trying to tackle is, see, what we will do is, whenever we are thinking of making house in any of the area, or settling any of the village in a hilly area, so hazard mapping will be done. So government will help us in finding out whether this area is prone to landslide or not. If the area is prone to more landslide, then obviously the village won't be allowed to settle in that particular place. But if the sorry but if the area is not prone to landslide, in that case the village will be allowed to settle, right? So that is the first thing. Second, construction of retention wall to stop land from slipping. So as you see over here in this picture, there is a road over here and there is some wall like structure built. So this is a new technology. You can see a hilly region over here. So in order to prevent landslide because of these hills in this direction, a complete long patch of wall is constructed, so that if there is any landslide in this part, so it will not come on the road, it will settle just before the wall. So building retention wall is the second technology nowadays. Increase in vegetation cover to arrest landslide. The most important thing, and the most important remedy is to plant more trees. So by planting more trees, landslide can be prevented. And how this is done, we will see this in the upcoming page. We will discuss it in details. The surface drain control works to control the movement of landslide along with rainwater and spring flow. So there should be some surface drains provided, so that the water can be easily flow through the drains, and the movement of landslides along the rainwater and spring flow will be allowed, and it will not result into further landslide. Okay, so I'll just give you an example, just moving forward to some other pages for reference. So see, we have seen that planting more trees, how it will avoid landsliding. So you can see over here an activity is given in these two trays, water is added. But in these two trays, this yellow color, that is soil, is added over tray 1, tray 2. In tray 2, we have planted some saplings. In tray 1, there is nothing, we are just pouring water. So see, if in tray 1 you just pour a water, what will happen? This water will flow, it will carry some soil with it, and that this is the actually the event which could be on higher scale, called as landslide. Landslide occurs in this fashion. But see, instead of allowing just land to be barren, if you plant some saplings on that, what will happen? The water you are adding will now not carry any soil with it, or very small fine particles will be carried, not as much as in this case. Why this happens? Because roots of the plants, they hold up the soil, they prevent the soil from flowing with water. So this is the way in which landslide can be prevented. So by increasing in the vegetation cover to arrest landsliding is the way in which landsliding can be prevented. Okay, so do you understand now what the landsliding is, what happens, and how to prevent it? Good. So now let us move to the next point, factors of soil formation. So we have seen that there are different layer of different um, covers that actually make up a soil. So how the layers are formed? So we will see that into details. The major factors of soil formation are nature of the parent rock and climatic factors. So there are two major factors that governs the soil formation. First is the nature of this parent rock, and second is the climatic factors. So different geographies or different regions have different climatic factors, and also they have different parental rock. Other factors are the topography, the role of organic material, and time taken for the composition of soil formation. So the secondary factors that are again responsible for soil formation are topography. Topography means how the surface look like, role of organic matter or material, whether there are any of the organic material present or not, and time taken. So time taken for soil formation that can differ or vary from depending upon what type of rock it is or what type of climate it is. So all these differs from place to place, and all these factors like parent rock, climate factors, other factors including topography, role of organic material, and time, all these factors they will vary from place to place, right? So now let us start with parent rock. So what will happen, parent rock will determine the color, texture, chemical properties, mineral content, and permeability of soil. So depending upon the parent rock, the soil will get its different properties. Like color, it will get color whether it is black, red, white, or brown, or any of the color. Then texture, so how basically this land looks like. Chemical properties, whether there are specific chemicals in the soil like potassium, nitrogen, any of which are required for vegetation growth. Then if there are any of the minerals available, and other contents if any, and permeability of the soil. So all these factors will be determined based on the parent rock, what type of soil will be found. Second is relief, altitude and slopes determine accumulation of soil. So what will happen on an altitude, or say for example if there is a slope, there will be movement of soil from top to bottom, right? So at the bottom there would be much more soil as compared to slope, right? So this will determine what type of soil is accumulated in which place. Then flora and fauna and microorganisms. So the availability of flora, fauna, and microorganisms, they will determine how this humus layer is formed, how these organic matters are decomposed, how early they are decomposed, and how they are retained in the soil. Third is time. So this time determines thickness of the soil profile. So as you see, if there is lot of time given to the soil, or lot of time is passed away, then the soil could be of much thickness as compared to the area where the just soil formation has started. And the most important is climate. So in climate, we know that temperature changes, there are different rainfalls, rate of vegetation, and humus formation. So all these factors, these depend upon climate, whether the temperature is hot or humid or cold, whether the rainfall is low, high, very high, extensive. So all these factors will depend the soil formation. Okay, because what will happen, say for example if the temperature is very low, it may happen that it is not suitable for rock to break down, so it will take more time. If there is very low rainfall, it may happen that again the soil that is formed will not be carried out, that is good thing. But if there is very high rainfall, it may happen that from certain areas the rainfall will carry away the rocks, small rocks, big rocks, and during their movement they will further break down. So this will, what it will happen, they will further enhance the soil formation mechanism, right? So in this way these different mechanisms will take or affect the soil formation, right? So now after seeing what is soil, after understanding the mechanism of formation of soil, now we will move to the next part, that is degradation of soil and conservation measures. Okay, so soil erosion and depletion are two major threats to soil as a resource. So there are, see, two basic things which are related to this soil. First is soil erosion, and second is depletion of soil. So in soil erosion, what will happen is uh, if there is movement of water or movement of air, soil particles will be carried by this water and even by the air movement. So what will happen, soil from one place will be carried and deposited to some other place. There will be movement of soil. This is known as soil erosion. And depletion means the fertility of the soil will reduce. There are many factors which are responsible for depletion of soil. So they could be natural causes, or there could be human made causes. Human made causes could be use of chemical fertilizers, use of extensive chemicals, improper taking care of fields, and so even overgrazing, cutting down of trees, these could also be the further reasons. So both human and natural factors can lead to degradation of soil. Factors which lead to soil degradation are deforestation because of cutting down of the trees, overgrazing, extensive grazing of cattle in the green fields, overuse of chemical fertilizers of or pests, rainwater, landslides and floods. These are all the reasons that are responsible for soil degradation. Some methods of soil conservation are listed below. So now we know that there are two major effects, soil erosion and soil depletion. So now let us try to see by using some mechanisms how this can be prevented. So first is mulching. What is done? The bare ground between plants is covered with a layer of organic matter like straws. It helps to retain soil moisture. So in mulching, what is done? If there are some plants planted say in these two lines for instance, so the area which is bare in between them, some straw material or straw like material will be added to this blank area so that it will help in retaining soil moisture, right? So this is the first thing, mulching. Second, contour barriers. So stone, grass, soil are used to build barriers along contours. Trenches are made in front of barriers to collect water. So whenever there are some areas, so using stone, grass and soil, some contours will be made, some barriers will be made, and before or in front of these trenches, or trenches are made in front of barriers to collect water. So basically these trenches, how it will help? It will help in preventing the direct flow of water from straight path, right? So what will happen, say for example, if you just consider this for some, this as a trench, so this may not be a trench, this is a plugging contour, but let us assume that this is a trench. So we, what we will do is we will build over here a trench, then again leave some space, again build some trench, again leave some place, again build some trench. So what will happen, water now instead of directly flowing, it will flow here, it will start accumulating in this region, and when there is overflow, only then the water will move into the next part. So that is contour barriers. So rocky dams is the third way. Rocks are piled up to slow down the flow of water. This prevents gullies and further soil erosion. Even in any of the water streams, we can build rock dams at certain places so that water which is flowing and carrying some soil with it, the soil will deposits when it hits the dam by slowing the speed of water. Okay. So terrace farming is the fourth method. So broad flat steeps or terraces are made on the steep slopes so that the flat surface are available to grow crop. They reduce surface runoff and soil erosion. So in terrace farming, what is done, say for example, consider this image. So yeah, this is a terrace farming shown over here. So if you see, this is a complete slope, but you may see that these are the flat surfaces made on these hills. So what will happen, instead of a continuous slope, now there are some steps like arrangements made on hill. So the benefit of this is that on a steep slope you have some flat surface, and this flat surface can be used now for cultivation, and further it will help in reducing the runoff water. By preventing or reducing the runoff water, the soil erosion which was initially going to happen in large quantity will now be reduced drastically. So that is known as terrace farming. After that, fifth point, yeah, is intercropping. Intercropping is different crops are grown in alternate rows and are sown at different times to protect the soil from rain wash. So in intercropping, what is done? Different crops in the same field are grown in alternate rows. Say for example, again consider this your this as your farm. So say for example, from here to here there would be one crop taken, from here to this region there will be second crop taken, from here to here it will be third crop taken. In this way alternate cropping will be done. So first crop, second crop, again first crop, second crop, and then again first crop, second crop. In this fashion the complete land will be filled with two crops majorly, but their sowing period will be different, so that when the first crop is removed there would still be some second crop in the field, which will prevent erosion or movement of soil due to air or rain, right? So that is known as intercropping. Third is contour plugging. Plugging parallel to the contours of hill slopes to form a natural barrier for water to flow down the slope. Again, So over here, this is the diagram of contour plugging. So see, you can see this is a hill and this is the slope of the wheel from here to here, and even the slope is in this direction as well, right? So this hill has slope in this direction and this hill has slope in this direction. So what is done? There are some contours made, that is some rows are dug up, and when the water will flow, alternate area is dug up. Say for example, if there is some digging done into this row, there is again some land left over, some area is left over, again the digging is done, again some area is left. So these different contours are made along the slope of this hill over also, you can see. So what happens when water is flowing? Now it will flow in the straight part, then there is a digging done, so the water will flow into this canal like arrangement. So again it will overflow, then it will come to next, again it will flow in flat zone, again there is some deep patch where the digging is done, again the water will be collected here. So in this way, instead of water now directly flowing in straight path, it will move in this fashion, like this, that is snake like arrangement, straight then down, again straight then down, again straight then down. So the speed of water is reduced, and this will further reduce the erosion of soil, right? So that was our, I think, fifth point, sixth point. Now the seventh point, shelter belts. So in shelter belts in coastal areas and dry regions, rows of trees are planted to check the wind movement to protect soil cover. So over here a diagram is shown which is shelter belt. So what is done in the coastal areas? Coastal areas means areas that are very close to the seashores. So basically, if you visit any of the seashore, there are very high winds. Okay, so these winds, if they are allowed to just pass over the land, they will carry a huge amount of soil with them or mud with them, right? But we have to prevent that movement of soil. So what is done? Along the boundaries of the field, different trees are grown. So you can see here over a large number of trees are planted in a single row or double row, whatever the thing could be. So what will happen whenever the air is passing through these trees, say example from here to here, what will happen? These plants will avoid or prevent the flow of air by acting as a barrier. They will reduce the speed of air, and now because of the reduced speed, the air is now not capable of carrying the soil from this field. Okay, so in this way, in the coastal region and as well as in the dry region, when there is very less rainfall, in both the regions such type of plantation is done to prevent soil movement. Okay, so this was about the soil degradation and how to conserve. What are the measures by which we can conserve soil degradation? We have already seen this activity. We'll just read aloud. So take two trays A and B of same size, make 6 holes at one end of this tray and then fill them with the same amount of soil. Leave the soil in tray A bare with sow a bare, while sow wheat or rice grains in tiny tray B. So what they have done, they have taken two trays, added some mud into that or soil into that. Tray A is left bare, nothing is done. In tray B, wheat or rice crops are planted, seeds are planted. When the grain in the tray B has grown a few centimeters high, place both the trays in such a way that they are on the slope. So when after some days there would be some plants grown in the tray B, so what you have to do, you have to take a tray and tilt it in a fashion so that it will look like a hill slope, and then you have to add water at that point, and you will see that water will flow through these complete saplings and then it will be drained out at this point. Over here same thing will happen. We will have add water over this point and it will drain flow through this region and drain out at this point, right? So now let us see what happens. Pour one mug of water from the same height into each tray. Collect the muddy water that trickles down the whole of both the trays into separate containers and compare how much soil is washed out of each tray. And after this activity, you have to collect this water in a clean tray and clean, you can say, jug, and then you have to see which land has resulted into more soil erosion, in which can there is lot of soil. So we can say from this observation that since this is covered with green vegetation, there is less of soil which is carried with this water, and hence there is less soil or less soil erosion as compared to the case when the land is barren. Okay, so these activities suggest that whenever the land is covered with some vegetative matter, the soil erosion effect will be reduced. So it is always good to have some vegetative cover on the land instead of just letting it to be barren. Okay, understood? Yeah. So after looking into the soil, so next resources that we have to see is water. So water is a vital renewable natural resource. 3/4 of the earth's surface is covered with water. So almost 3/4 of the earth, that is 75% of the earth, is covered with water. It is therefore appropriately called the water planet. And since there is a plenty of water cover or water available on our planet, our earth is also known as water planet. It was in the primitive oceans that life began almost 3.5 billion years back. So if you go very back, almost 3.5 billion years, so it is said that approximately 3.5 billion years the life began on earth. So life began in the sense, it was not that directly human being came into existence, directly dinosaurs came into existence. Few microorganisms started growing into the water, then some out of them started shifting to land. Some of them would have survived on the land and they would have remained on the land itself. So from them again the development of terrestrial animals would have started. Similarly, in the animals that lived in the water, they further resulted into different species in the water itself. So that is how the beginning of life on earth started. So even today the ocean covers 2/3 of the earth's surface and support a rich variety of plants and animal life. So today also almost 2/3 of the earth is covered with oceans, and there are various type of plants and animal life in this ocean. The ocean water is however saline and not fit for human consumption, but as we know that the ocean water contains many salts and hence it is saline in taste and we don't drink it directly. Fresh water accounts for only about 2.7%. And if you look at the fresh water means the water that is available for drinking purpose or even for some household or domestic use. So out of this total 70%, only 2.7% of water is available for drinking or for daily activities. Nearly 70% of this occurs as ice sheets and glaciers in Antarctica. So again, if you see, out of this 2.7%, only 30% is available for drinking and 70% is in the form of polar ice, which is located in Antarctica, Greenland and mountainous regions. So due to their location they are inaccessible, and since they are in the form of icebergs or ices, we cannot use them for drinking. Only 1% of fresh water is available and fit for human use, and only we can say now that apart or of the all 70% of the water that is available on the earth, only 1% of fresh water is available to fit for human use. Rest of the water is not either available or not either fit for human consumption. It is found as groundwater, as surface water in rivers and lakes, and as water vapors in the atmosphere. And this 1% is not concentrated in single place. So all the water available below ground, that is underground water resources, surface water resources like lake, river, some underground resources like borewell, wells, and water vapor in the atmosphere. So all these things they comprise of only 1% of the water which is available for drinking, right? So now you could have a thought, or you should think that since such a huge amount of water is available but still only 1% of water is available, so how do we bring more water, or how do we manage with such a small amount of water which is available for human beings? Shall we not conserve it, or how do we avoid wastage of water, right? So fresh water is therefore the most precious substance on earth. So freshwater resources, what they are saying is, it is the most precious substance on earth. So if you just remember, we initially saw two stories. One was of Mamba and second one was of Peter. So due to the water scarcity in Mamba's region, the region was not very economically developed, whereas in case of Peter, due to available of water, they had started with business and their region was well flourished, right? So the availability of water is an important factor, the most important factor, because human being cannot, or any of the living organisms cannot survive without availability of clean drinking water. So it is our responsibility to conserve water. Water can neither be added nor subtracted from the earth. So whatever the quantity of water is available on the earth, that will always remain same. Its total volume remains constant. Its abundance only seems to vary because it is in constant motion. But what will happen? We see that at some place initially there was water, so now there would not be any water. Why this happens? So if you see any of the lake or river during summer, the water will heat up, will get converted into vapors, will flow upwards, will form clouds. These clouds will flow from one region to another region, and wherever they will cool, they will water will come back to earth in the form of rain. So this is the water cycle. So different regions have different water cycle, and hence water movement will take from one place to another place. But in general, what will happen? This total volume that is getting evaporated and again forming precipitate and coming down to earth, that always remains constant. But what happens? Only from region to region with respect to time, the water quantity in one region may change with respect to some other region, or the water quantity of one region may even change with respect to time. Yeah. So its total volume remains constant. Its abundance only seems to vary because it is in constant motion, cycling through the oceans, the air, the land, and back again through the processes of evaporation, precipitation, and runoff. This, as you already know, is referred to as water cycle, just whatever we discussed. So human use huge amount of water not only for drinking and washing, but also in the process of production. So human beings use large amount of water for drinking, for their household activities, for washing clothes, washing utensils, washing animals, and in various other processes like agriculture, industry, generating electricity through reservoirs of dam and other usages. So human being uses plenty of water for different activities, for his personal use as well as for commercial use. So increasing population, rising demand for food and crop, increasing urbanization and rising standard of living are the major factors leading to shortage in the supply of fresh water, either due to drying up of water resources or water pollution. So as we know that we are continuously developing, we are starting new businesses, new industries are being added, our population is growing, large amount of agricultural area is being increased. So all these effects, they are creating stresses, or they are increasing the water consumption. So since the available water is limited and we are increasing the water consumption, it may happen that some part where the water is scarcely available may suffer water shortage, right? But the places where there is plenty of water, they may not suffer water shortage presently, but if the consumption rate is higher enough than the replenishing rate, then it may happen that after a certain period this region will also suffer some water shortages. Okay, so now there is an activity given over here, so let us try to understand. An average human, an average urban Indian, urban means the person living in a city, uses about 150 liters of water every day. So this is a general statement, like even applicable to us. So for example, let us consider ourselves. So we use 150 liters of water daily. Okay, so let us try to understand for what purpose, how much liters of water do we spend. So for drinking, we approximately drink 3 liters of water per day. Good. So for cooking food, we require approximately 4 liters of water. So this cooking food, it will include both things like cleaning the vegetables, and even actual water that is added for preparation, bathing. So taking bath, almost one bucket or two buckets, approximately 20 liters. Flushing, using for toilet, cleaning hands, mouth, face, etc., it will approximately take 40 liters. Washing clothes, or daily clothes, it will approximately take 40 liters. Washing utensils, 20 liters. Gardening, if you have any garden, approximately 23 liters per person. So all this, if you see, it accounts to 150 liters. So of these activities, say for example, from this point to this point, how much importance should be given to these activities? Whether this volume is really required, or is there any potential that we can reduce the consumption of these volumes, right? The major two things which are required are drinking and cooking water. For drinking, if you see, out of this 150, only 3 liters is used, very less, approximately 2%. And for this cooking, only 4 liters is used. So 4 and 3, if you consider, this is 7 liters. So out of this 150 liters, 7 liters is the most important water for us, right? So 7 on 150, we can say approximately 20%, no, 5%. Yeah, so this is approximately 5 to 7% water, which is most important for us. So now we have seen availability of water, why is water required, how is water distribution, and how an average human being consumes water on daily basis. So now also let us try to understand what are the problems associated with water availability. Okay, so there is scarcity of water in many regions of the world. Most of Africa, West Asia, South Asia, part of Western USA, Northwest Mexico, part of South America, and entire Australia are facing shortage in fresh water supply. So these are all the regions on the world where there is shortage of fresh water supply. Fresh water means the water that is available for drinking and for household activities. So a lot of countries you can see. Countries located in climatic zones most susceptible to droughts face great problems of water scarcity. So the regions where there is a potential that, or the area which is most prone to droughts or desertified areas, so these are the areas that are always on water scarcity. Thus, water shortage may be consequence of variation in seasonal or annual precipitation, or the scarcity is caused by overexploitation and contamination of water resources. So there are 2-3 reasons for this water scarcity or water shortage. The first thing is rainfall. It may happen that during a year the rainfall could be reduced, or there would have been very less rainfall and hence less water available. The second reason could be the available water resources are polluted because of unethical practices. That is, we may have let the effluents from factories and household directly into the drinking water sources. So what will happen? Drinking water sources will get polluted. That is the second reason. And third reason could be over exploitation. Say for example, if there is any river or any lake available and we are continuously overusing the water for agriculture, for industries, for household activities, then after some time what will happen? This water will be completely consumed up. There will be no water left into the river or pond. So in this way, these are the three major reasons for water scarcity. Now we'll see like how do we conserve this water, since we know that how we are wasting or how we are utilizing this. So it is now our responsibility to conserve this water. So there are few easy steps that one can take to conserve the water. So access to clean and adequate water source is a major problem facing the world today. So if you see, since the water is available in plenty, but that is not available for drinking, only few liters of water or few percentage of water is available for drinking. Availability of this fresh water for drinking purpose is the major problem faced by world. Steps has to be taken to conserve this dwindling resource. Even though water is a renewable resource, its overuse and pollution make it unfit for use. But since this water is a renewable resource, it replenishes itself, but the time of replenishing is much higher than the rate at which we are consuming. So what will happen? The overuse will reduce the water sources, and the addition of pollutants to this water will destroy the resource completely and make it unfit for drinking. Discharge of untreated and particulate treated waste, partially treated waste, agricultural chemicals, and industrial effluents in water bodies are major contaminants. So as we said that untreated water or partially treated water from sewage, gutters, agricultural chemicals, the water that is flowing through agriculture will carry chemicals, and industrial effluents, the left out or discharge water from industries, they also carry huge amount of chemicals. When they are let into the freshwater bodies, they will cause or create water contamination as shown in this figure. So see, this is a river Yamuna is getting polluted due to sewage, industrial effluents, and garbage. All the sources of used up or wastewater is directly let into the rivers. That will create such an bad scenario. It will also create bad smell. They pollute water with nitrates, metals, and pesticides, and different amount or different types of chemicals are now being added to this water. Most of these chemicals are non-biodegradable and reach human bodies through water. So what will happen? Most of these chemicals that are non-biodegradable. What do you mean by biodegradable? Biodegradable means they will not degrade. They will not be decomposed by organisms. Organisms cannot decompose these compounds. So these compounds, they will remain in the water, and if you consume this water, or if you consume any of the product that is grown on this water, or if you consume fish which has grown in this water, obviously the chemicals would have entered the body of plant or body of fish, and when we consume them, automatically those chemicals will also get within our bodies. And if you consume at a very high rate, these chemicals will start adding or get depositing in your bodies, right? So these chemicals are very bad for human health as well. So water pollution can be controlled by treating these effluents suitably before releasing them in water bodies. So what we can do, as you have seen here, that all the wastewater from industries, from agriculture, from sewage, that should be properly treated to remove all the hazardous chemicals, hazardous metals, hazardous waste from the water, and only then the good amount of water which is now clean and not much polluted should be allowed into the water resources. So forest and other vegetation cover slow the surface runoff and replenish underground water. So whenever we are increasing the surface cover by planting more trees on slopes or on plain lands, what will happen? The speed of water will reduce. The speed of water will reduce. So what will happen? The water will start percolating in the ground to more extent. Since the percolation rate has increased, more water will flow underground, instead just run off and going into river and further into sea, right? So the underground table in this way could be increased by allowing water to percolate into the soil. So water harvesting is another method to save surface runoff. The canals used for irrigation fields should be properly lined to minimize losses by water seepage. So this we have seen with respect to runoff water, which could happen on slopes or even the flat lands. Second thing is, you may have seen there are various canals that supply water to various regions, but you may have also observed that there are continuous or major leakages into these canals. Say for example, if I want to send water from one region to another region through canal, and if there are any leakages, major leakages into the canal, so what will happen? If say example, if I start with 20 200 liters of water, at the end I may only end up with 5 liters of water. So there is wastage of almost 195 liters of water because of the leakages. So these leakages should be prevented uh, to conserve water. Sprinklers effectively irrigate the area by checking water losses through seepage and evaporation. Again, instead of conventional way of irrigation, that is allowing the water to flow through canals or through these regions or straight paths, we should use something as indicated in the figure, which is known as sprinkler. So what it is doing is, it is creating a shower of water over this land, and because of this there would be like rainy effect on this soil. There would be even distribution of water, and water will not percolate so much into the soil. So if you allow just by the canal, so water will start percolating, and very small amount of water will reach in this part. But because of this sprinkling arrangement, even water distribution and less amount of water will be required for this crop. In dry region with high rates of evaporation, the deep or tickle irrigation is useful. The valuable water resource can therefore be conserved by adopting these means of irrigation. And the regions where there is very high scarcity of water, instead of using this sprinkle irrigation, we could use deep irrigation. Say for example, if we have a mango plantation or mango field, so what we will do is, we will have a pipe, we will just put some holes on the pipe where there is a plant, and rest of the pipe it will be without any holes, so that water will be only provided to the places where actually trees are grown, and the other area we will not irrigate. So what will happen because of this practice, only the required amount of water will be added to the field, and there would be saving of huge amount of water. Okay, so do you have any of the queries on this water conservation? Okay, if you have, kindly add it to the comment. So I think for the day we can stop here. So today we have seen with two major things. One was about the soil, how it is formed, how to conserve it, and second was the water resource. So two major resources we have covered in this lecture. So let us meet again so that we can cover the rest of the resources. And please do subscribe our channel if you have not subscribed it, and if you have any queries or comments, kindly add it into the comments, so we will be happy to revert back with replies. Thank you, and please visit our channel regularly so that you can get updates of the new lectures. Thanks again.